You may have seen a Channel 4 show on the other day. The School That Tried to End Racism. It's a two-parter, and basically it's all about teaching children, very young children, just just very very young, 8 to 11-year-olds or so, about bias and about being racially prejudiced. And they separated the children into the white children and the black children. A bit difficult for one particular child who was mixed race, having to choose which side they were on. But basically asking the children to sort of talk about their biases and their race. And basically the lesson was, you're all racist, really. You've got these unconscious biases, and the idea is that you can test what children really think. Well, all human beings have this unconscious bias against people who perhaps may appear to be different to them, and how it affects how we treat people. But is there actually any proper science behind this? Well, let's talk to Calvin Robinson, who's a state secondary school teacher and joins us now. Good morning to you, Calvin.
Morning, Julia.
Good morning.
Absolute pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to talk to you. I've been reading some really interesting articles about this programme, which I have to say I really find really quite disconcerting. And I have to say, if this happened in my daughter's school, I would probably be taking legal action, frankly, in terms of what's done. This is a new, I'm not going to be honest, this is a new pseudoscience, isn't it? This is new pseudoscience. This idea that you can sort of take a test and work out whether they're a child or an adult, is actually got unconscious bias, particularly unconscious racial bias. And therefore you could be educated and trained to not have that bias. And there's really no evidence whatsoever that this actually works.
Well, it's not actually new pseudoscience. This has been around for about 20 years, the AIT, the implicit bias test. And it's been debunked. Even the people that were the architects behind it have said, this doesn't work. It might show that you have a certain bias towards certain lighter or darker skin tones, but that doesn't reflect how you're going to interact with people and how you're going to treat people. It doesn't show that you're an unconscious racist. All it shows is that you have a certain bias towards certain things, which we all do. We have a unconscious bias towards beauty, for example. We tend to like prettier faces over less pretty faces. That's a bias that we're born with as human beings. But the problem I have with this is that it's not just this Channel 4 program, which I haven't seen yet. I've been contacted. I do consultancy for the DfE in a number of schools, and school leaders have contacted me saying, look, we're being pressured into doing something around this race relations issue from parents, but also from activist teachers. And they're being pushed into this whole critical race theory, teaching that white privilege is a thing, and that if you argue against it, you've got white fragility. It's one of these battles that you can't actually win. It's unchallengeable, because the moment you speak up against it, you are saying that you're a racist.
And that's the issue, isn't it? And you yourself, we've got this on video. We'll be playing this out on social media, on YouTube and Twitter as well. You yourself are mixed race. But we've got this idea that basically, white people aren't allowed to comment on this. Almost, it's just against the law virtually, because by definition you don't understand because you've not experienced racism. And I understand that argument, but also because you must, by definition, by denying that you think that the world is a horribly racist, nasty place, by denying that you think that you yourself are racist, or that your average child is racist in this country, you yourself are exhibiting your unconscious racism. So it's almost, we're in sort of catch-22 double thing, can't we? That the act of stating that you don't think you're racist means you must, by definition, be racist.
And that's by design, I think, Julia. Racism used to mean discriminating against someone based on their race, but they've redefined the word to mean racism is a power structure, a struggle between white oppressors and everyone else. And that's not what racism means. I can tell you, as a mixed race person, I've experienced racism from lots of different people in lots of different skin tones. And it's not exclusive to white people. But unconscious bias and race relations are things that schools should be addressing. That isn't what I'm saying here. All I'm saying is that we shouldn't rush to jump on this bandwagon that's been, it's been a catalyst from the BLM movement, let's be honest, which has got its own political
and this
agenda.
is it. And it's, we talk about this sort of woke agenda, but I don't think it is particularly woke, because I'm 52, and I grew up in a world where we certainly were not raised to be racist. I'd not raised my child to be racist. And for me, I was growing up in a society where colour, race, ethnicity was less and less and less important, almost as the days went by. I mean, if I asked my daughter to describe either a teacher or a friend of hers, I don't think that the colour of their skin would be mentioned in the top 10 things even if she was describing them physically. It wouldn't be something that she registers as important. Now, that may be because she's a white child, she therefore hasn't experienced racism and therefore doesn't have to be aware of it. But are we in danger, especially with programmes like this, the School That Tried to End Racism? We're almost introducing the idea that people who have a different skin colour are different to us because they have a different skin color. When I don't think that occurs to a child unless someone points it out. I don't think you're intrinsically born racist. I think you have to be taught it.
Yeah, absolutely. These programs are encouraging children to see color so that they can address their white privilege. And what they're actually doing there is detrimental. It's causing racial tensions where there were none to begin with. And I don't think that's the correct approach. It's like the book lists that they're presenting. You must read all these books, educate yourself, and they're all from one political leaning. There's no diversity of thought or opinion there. And if you challenge them again, you're considered racist. So let's have kids reading Robin DiAngelo, but let's have them also reading Thomas Sowell as well, and Booker T. Washington.
And what do you make of Sir Keir Starmer, the Labour leader? He said that he's going to have not only unconscious bias training himself, but also insist that everyone at the Labour Party staff has it. And as you said, we're hearing from again and again, teachers being told, other people in other jobs being told, you have to go for this unconscious bias training. I mean, I'm trying to decide, if my company decide to do it, I'm going to decide really, am I willing to go, do you know what? I'm not willing to do that. It seems to me this is the same as telling, male students when they arrive at university, they have to go for compulsory don't go and rape women training. I find it offensive. I really genuinely think when we say I find that offensive, I think this really is. You're basically saying to people, you start off as a racist and we need to sort of unprogram you.
Yeah, it's a business model, isn't it? These companies going out there,
they're
fleecing
making money.
Schools right now. Yeah. And like I say, this is one of the best, most inclusive, most diverse countries in the world. We're very fortunate to be living in a country where race isn't actually an issue. Even our closest neighbors, America, have much bigger issues than we're facing. We're in a good place right now. And I think people are trying to rock the boat and cause a bit of tension in order to make a few bucks.